Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be jumping into some spiritual children's books. So I recently did this with some psychic development books and you guys were so excited and I was so surprised. And you guys said, yes, come back and do kids books. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Now these are not necessarily religious books. I'm not a religious person. I'm more of a spiritual person. As you guys can probably tell from the title, I am a psychic, I am a medium, I'm an animal communicator. I'll kind of get more into my background, but these books are more for those who are spiritual. Maybe you have kids yourself, maybe you have nieces, nephews, grandchildren, and you just want to be like the cool aunt, uncle, grandparent who wants to give your nieces, nephews, grandchildren some cool books. These are the ones that I recommend that I don't think are too like religious leaning, but kind of teach some cool principles and introduce kids to things that are spiritual in nature, and might get kids thinking about that and exploring things of that nature so that they can get interested in those topics for themselves. This won't be like my psychic development review video where I went through like bad, good, best, because for the most part, when I go through children's books, I will read them first or like go to the library or to a bookstore and like skim them first. And I really only purchase them if I like them. So what I have here is what I recommend. And I've read a lot of books. I've read a lot in metaphysical stores that I did not like. So anything I have here is what I recommend. The ones that I don't have, I don't recommend. Some of these might be for you. Some of them might not be for you. It's a matter of preference. And again, a lot of you are probably going to come across this video not knowing who I am at all. I'm a psychic development coach, I'm a medium. I also am a little bit of a witchy woo-woo person, so I incorporate a lot of witchcraft practices into my home. But again, I am not somebody who like pushes that on my children. My husband identifies as Christian, even though he totally does like witchy things, he does psychic-y things. We are very fluid. We don't push our children into anything, and we are going to let them discover and explore all religions and let them gravitate to what they want to explore. Obviously, I will acknowledge that there's a bias here. We're gonna put things in front of them that we enjoy. So point being, I'm sure there's a ton of books that I've probably left out. So if you have any that you absolutely love, please leave them down into the comments down below because I'm always looking for more. So let's start with animal communication. Obviously, I'm an animal communicator. We've recently lost a pet as a family, so we had to go through some of those emotions. I was looking for a book to kind of explain that. This is one of them that popped up on Amazon. Wasn't the biggest fan of this one, but I still kept it anyways. More so wasn't a fan because it's very 90s. However, Mr. Rogers, very good at explaining emotions. So this book was still great of explaining like why a pet dies. This is making me realize that I don't have a good recommendation for when people die as well for children. I'm sure there's a good one out there for that as well, because this is a very delicate subject to talk to children about, because you have to be careful about like not letting them think that like pets can come back to life or that people can come back to life. And so like, I don't want to like dive too far on a tangent here, but this book does a really good job of speaking to that. And as a medium, that's an important thing that like I have to deal with clients with. I mean, most adult clients know all of this, but with children, you know, it's important to kind of introduce that at a young age as well. Now, this book I absolutely loved as well, The Invisible Leash, because this book is a little bit more poetic, it's a little bit more beautiful, and it talks about like the actual spiritual idea behind the fact that you can still communicate with pets after they are done. And it's like this idea that there's an invisible leash tying, oh, it just makes me emotional thinking about this book, tying your pet to you. And you tug on this leash, and like it connects you and your pet even after they've passed. And you tug on it and they tug on it and it still connects them. If I would have had this book when I was little, I think it would have helped me a lot more, because if you've heard me in my story, I've talked about how like I used to cry myself to sleep because the Bible told me that pets did not go to heaven, and that just like killed me. And so I think this is a beautiful replacement for helping kids understand where their pets might go when they pass. Because after many, many years of connecting to animals on the other side, I do believe they are still around. And I will link all these books down below if you want to purchase them. Obviously, I do make a little bit of a commission off of every single one. They do not charge you any extra. It just takes a little percentage for me. But just transparency up front. This one is so well loved in our house. It is so beat up. Meditation. It's even drawn on. Both my kiddos had this book, and I've talked about this book in other videos before. What we do with this book is on each page, we do a deep breath in, me and my husband, whenever we read this book. So we show what a meditative breath looks like. And we've been reading this to our kids since they were like babies. And maybe I'll throw in a video of both of them doing it here. So they know just from practice and from listening to us what a meditative breath looks like. Since they were like little. And it's so funny because my now 1.5-year-old already knows what this book is, and they know what taking a deep breath is. And we have been able to introduce taking deep breaths in correlation to emotional regulation. But you can't start like teaching emotional regulation and breath work. Like it's nice to have this in parts. So if you can start doing the breath work part, and then when they're older and they can start to understand like emotional regulation, and you can start to incorporate that with like, you know, calm down corners or timeouts or like whatever you decide to do, I think that's kind of like helpful. So if you can start doing this at a really young age, if you can give this to anybody who's got like a baby shower, I think this is great, because if they're doing the meditation breaths at a young age, because maybe then as they're getting older, they know that breath work, and then you can start using that to build upon for emotional regulation. Because now my son is 5, we can tell him, take deep breaths, do your meditation breaths. He already knows what those are. Now he's an Aries moon, and he's like, I don't want to do my meditation breaths. That's a whole nother story, but he knows what they are at least. But yeah, it's such a cute book, so easy. Oh, and this is the Mind Body Baby, and they have a collection. I don't have any of the other ones. They're very simple. They have like chakras, crystals, astrology. I would say it's like for babies, so your kids might outgrow it pretty quickly. It might be fun for new time parents, and you might enjoy it for tiny kiddos, but it's very basic, very basic. It's not very advanced concepts, so don't expect to be learning a whole lot from these. Now, these ones are not necessarily spiritual, but I do believe in teaching imagination and encouraging that, because I do feel like it's very adjacent to the psychic ability, and it was such a huge part of me growing up. And so like we have this, I forgot to grab the other one of this. We have the fairies are real. We also have the dragons are real. And then I also have a book called Uni the Unicorn, which is about believing, a unicorn who believes in real girls. And so like I have just a slew of books about believing in magic, believing in fairies, believing in a lot of that stuff, which I feel like a lot of parents sometimes tend to skew away from, but it's something that I've actively decided to encourage a lot, because I grew up being encouraged with that. I don't know, maybe that's just like my Pisces nature, but I just feel like believing in magic is so much part of believing in your intuition. And when kids are able to connect to their imagination and magic, they are a lot better set up to be connected to their psychic abilities and their intuition. So anything that I can do to encourage imaginative books or just imaginative play in general is really important to me. So I grabbed this to illustrate that point, but there's tons of books that I have kind of around that concept. Now this next publishing company is probably one of my absolute favorites, and they're called Moondust Press, and I have so many of their books here. So let me just show you. Oh, here's their logo, just so you know what they are. Moondust Press. And they are kind of more along the witchy side of things. They definitely focus more on like the Sabbats and the elements, more witchy stuff. Not all witchy stuff, but so like this is their Sabbat series. So we've got Flora and the First Day of Spring, Luke and the Longest Night, and then Sam and the Samhain Scare. So these all go with each of the 8 Sabbats. So, and they're very educational, but also like fun stories, and they've got like great pictures in them. So I actually keep these in with like my decorations, and I only pull them out. So I keep this one in my Halloween decorations, and so it's like a Halloween story, but it actually teaches about Halloween in like the proper Halloween way, like actually what Samhain is about honoring your ancestors. It's about it actually being like the witches' New Year, so like they're celebrating New Year here. I mean, the kids are doing spells in these books, so like, I mean, intentional, like worded affirmation spells. So this is definitely not going to be for everybody. This is definitely going to not make some moms out there happy. And then in the back of all of these books, it's got explainers of what that Wheel of the Year, what that Sabbath is about. And then it's got spells in here. It's got activities that you can actually do with your kiddos. Honoring your ancestors spell. So I freaking love these books. So the Luke and the Longest Night, that one's for Yule, which is like Christmas time. So it teaches about like the longest night. So it's not going to be about Santa Claus. It's actually like a book about Yule and like the Celtic traditions around Yule, not just your average Christmas, you know, Christian book, which is what I love about Moondust Press, is like my kids are actually learning about the origins of these like solstices and Sabbats, which is really important to me. So again, more spells in the back. This is that spring equinox one, talking about the wheel turning. Like it talks about like runes and sigils, like teaching those concepts to kids. But they also talk about like emotions, like she gets like mad in this book and like breathing and calming down. Like I love these books for so many reasons. So they do have like a Sabbath series, but they also have like a couple other like standalone ones. So this one is like the Song of the Elements, which teaches kids about just the elements, but it's like the magical properties of the elements. So this is like fire, water, earth, and air. Let's see. So like, to the south, you'll find fire. The lion and salamander come out to play. Pick snapdragon, sunflower, fragrant witch hazel, allspice and nettle, or pepper and basil. So it's like literally even teaching you some of the like correspondences that witches would use for like the South. And then it's even got like tarot cards associated with the South. I read this to my 5-year-old. It kind of went over his head and lost him a little bit. This one's definitely for kids that are a little bit older. Again, some people are not going to be happy about this one. But they also have a couple other books that I have in my wish list. I haven't purchased, but I've actually read them, which is like What Witches Wear, which is another great one about kind of like inclusivity and witches. They also have Sunday the Sea Witch, which is another one I wanted to grab. And then another one that I haven't read yet that's kind of a newer, which is like Magic Child, which is like a bedtime routine one. Honestly, I'm probably going to buy everything they make because I love their books so much. Let's just do some Halloween ones. I have a ton of Halloween ones, but the only ones that I wanted to like do like shout outs about were this one, just because it's a classic. I had this one as a kid. The only reason why I wanted to shout out this one is because like I never realized at the beginning, this lady is totally a witch. I don't know if you knew that, but The little old lady who wasn't afraid of anything, she went for a walk in the forest to collect herbs, nuts, spices, and seeds. And I just wanted to like point out the fact that like she goes on this walk, and there's a lot of like scary things that happens to her throughout this book, but she's really brave. And by the end of the book, like if you know this book, she like fights off like the fear, and she doesn't let it overcome her. So I think this is a really good book, like to have a side conversation to teach boundaries and about being brave and not being scared. And so that is something that I feel like I don't find enough of. I mean, maybe there's some good books out there. If anyone has any good recommendations around like boundary setting for children when they're like scared, I'm sure there's some out there. But this one is a good conversation starter for kids who might get scared easily, and it's about like not being afraid of the things in the dark. I don't know, nothing special really about this one. It's cute. Halloween's coming. I got it in Salem too, and there's a lot of like generic Halloween books, but this one talks about like the Halloween traditions. I like it. Next up, my son has been obsessed with the planets. It went back to the planet song in Blue's Clues. I am obsessed with the planets because of astrology. And so the happy medium was to just kind of get him interested in the planets literally. And so this series is adorable. This is just kind of, what are these? Is it the McNulty Lewis series? I'll lift them up one at a time. But basically each book is about each of the planets. As of me recording this, there's only a few out. So they have the sun, they've got Mars, Pluto, Earth, and the moon. My son is obsessed with these. And they're not astrology, they're very just like informational. But like this one, it talks about like the moon phases, and it tells you very literally what like the planets are about, and it gives you facts. But it does set up foundational astronomy knowledge that you would need to know for astrology, like how many times does the Earth move around the sun, and how many like what the moon phases are, and the tides, and all of that stuff. Like this, Mars, I'm red not because I'm mad, but because I'm named after the Roman god of war. So it's like history mixed with like information, but it's actually like fun, and they're like personified. Again, like foundational knowledge that he can kind of understand each and individual planet. So then if I wanted, or he wanted to understand astrology one day, he would have that foundational knowledge. Honestly, it's helpful for me because now I know some of the things about the planets that I didn't know before. So yeah, if you've got kiddos that love planets, this series is good. They're in the middle of releasing a bunch. I think they also have like one on the oceans. And there's one we've got on pre-order right now that is the whole solar system. And I'm sure they're gonna make one for each and every planet. If you guys have any other recommendations of astrology books, I know there's, again, that astrology series from that Mind, Body, Baby series. There's another book called Mama, What's the Zodiac? I'm totally open for any recommendations. It's not something that I would have looked for until recently, so I don't have very many of those as of right now. Speaking of Mama, What's the Zodiac? This is kind of like the partner book to it. This one's called Mama, What's a Witch? And this one speaks to what witches are very like directly, if that's something that you want to introduce to your kiddos. Mama, What's a Witch? A witch is a person big or small who loves the earth and honors all. A witch can soothe heartache, pain, and hurt. She uses the gifts that come straight from earth. My only complaint with this one is it's very like, it's only like females in this book, so it was kind of tough to read to my son. It's something that I wish was kind of geared towards all genders. but I did like the concepts in them. Just kind of another witchy book. And then this one is another witchy book from Moondust Press again, and this one is for babies, and it's kind of like, you always see like the ABCs of something. It's like A is for this, B is for that. This one is C is for Coven, and this one I got from my daughter. This one wasn't around when my son was little, so it's a little bit newer of a book, but this one is like really, really witchy. Some of the stuff when I got it, I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. So A is for altar, B is for Basam, like really like witchy stuff. D is for drawing down, S is for solstice, T is for tarot. Again, I would only recommend this one if you are a witch yourself. Again, I would get these not to push these on your children, but if you do them yourself, it's to have a context to explain if your children start asking questions about what you do. Like, my son sees me using tarot. My son sees me with my altar, like, you know, and he starts to ask questions. And so having the context to explain things, or even for you to have a tool to explain it if you don't quite know how, that's where I think these would come in handy. It's not necessarily to be like, you have to do these things. It's just like my personal thing. I think having grown up in a household where it was never pushed on me was a very beneficial thing. And so I think even us, even if we think that spirituality is like the best way, I still think we have to remember that it might not be the best way even for our kids. Look, I love this. Look at this. V is for veil, delicate and thin, separating us from those who have been. Ah, love it. Last one and first one. I've had this book since I was a kid, and it's called The Next Place. I think this might have contributed a little bit to my scaredness of the afterlife. I didn't read this again until recently. I don't think this is bad, but I think this is good if you have more of a background in believing in heaven. I've kind of decided not to maybe read this one to my kiddos, but if you like the idea of heaven, go for it. There's some of these things in here that like would come across as scary to kids, like because it talks about like the next place being like, when you die, where do you go? And I think that it makes sense for adults, but for children, it can be taken the wrong way. Like, the next place that I go won't really be a place at all. There won't be any seasons, winter, summer, spring, or fall. And I was like, what? I love those things. I will not be a boy or a girl, a woman or a man. I'll simply be just simply me. And like, we as adults get that concept. We understand, like, oh yeah, like we're removing ego, we're removing our physical body. But as a child, that might be very hard to grasp and understand. So I don't even know why I grabbed this, honestly. I don't know why I grabbed this. Now, wrapping up here, what I feel like I'm missing out of a lot of these books, because again, I've been to metaphysical stores, I've like perused through some series. I feel like there's nothing that really speaks directly to like mediumship, psychic stuff, like when kids are struggling with dealing with spirits, dealing with boundary setting. I don't see a whole lot of books around that. Even like there was a book written by, I want to say it was like Wayne Dyer or something, and I like picked them up and it's just like they just are very vague. They don't really speak directly to that. I wish I could see more of that. Like, I feel like there should be more of that nowadays. Like I even mentioned in my last video, there was a book called Psychic Baby, and I was really excited, and I think I picked that book up, I don't know if it was from the library or on my Kindle or something, and I was really disappointed because it taught nothing about psychic abilities. It was, again, very vague, and it's nothing psychic development related. Point being, I want to end this video with, I'm hoping to add to the mix. I am excited to announce that I'm going to be helping Karen, my mentor, who you've seen several times on my podcast. she is writing a children's book. She's writing a couple, I believe, and I'm just gonna jump in and help her with her book. We're in the process behind the scenes of working on those children's books, and we're gonna bring forth some of those, bringing forth, filling those gaps of speaking to what kids experience, especially around spirits, especially around dealing with boundaries, psychic abilities. So I'm so excited to share that with you all. In the works, it's gonna be a while, but we will definitely share it with you guys when it's ready. So yeah, stay tuned. Again, if you have any recommendations of books that I've missed, please let me know. Not only because I have kids and I would love to share it with them, but because I'm sure there's lots of people watching this video who would love more recommendations. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Alrighty, bye.